Hello everyone, I am Mr. Navarun Mondal, Senior Subject Master of St. Paul School, Darjeeling. You are watching my channel THINKONOMICS-Study with Navarun. It's quite good to see that the number of subscribers, number of viewers are increasing day by day. So it motivates me to teach much more better way to all of you. Today I thought, why not to take the class in a scenic beauty of St. Paul School, Darjeeling. Is drizzling over here, but I will try to continue my lesson as much as possible. Today, I will concentrate mainly on the topic income elasticity of demand and cross elasticity of demand. My boys and girls, in my last lesson, I taught you about the price elasticity of demand. What is price elasticity of demand? Price elasticity of demand, it measures the sensitivity of the change in quantity demand due to change in price. And as price and quantity, they move in the opposite direction. As they move in the opposite direction, so we generally put a minus sign in order to make the ratio positive. Then what about the income elasticity of demand? Income elasticity of demand, it shows by how much the quantity demand will change if the income of the consumer increases or if the income of the consumer decreases. In this case, generally for the normal good, boys, we know that quantity demand and the change in income will move in the same direction. So the value will be positive for the normal goods. Now, the normal goods can again be classified into two types. One is called the necessary goods, the other one is called the luxurious goods. For necessary goods, if the income increases by 10%, the consumption of the necessary goods will not increase by 10%. For example, if your income increases by 20%, will you increase the consumption of rice or the consumption of salt or the consumption of sugar by 20%? No, the answer is no. Because these are necessities of life. We are already consuming. So if the income increases by 20%, maybe we can increase the consumption of rice or the sugar or salt by 1% or maybe 2%. But it will never be more than 20% or it will be around 20%. So in case of necessary goods, the value of income elasticity of demand will definitely be positive. It will increase. That is greater than zero. But the value of income elasticity of demand for the necessary goods will be less than 1. You have to remember, in ICC the question gives, what is the value of the income elasticity of demand for the necessary goods? The value of income elasticity of demand for the necessary goods will be greater than 0 and less than 1. For luxurious goods, what will be the value? Suppose your income increases by 20% and the demand for the iPhone All right, the demand for iPhone will increase in this case by more than 20%, because that is a luxurious good. If you want to purchase a costly air conditioner, or you want to purchase a smart television, in this case, if the income increases by 10% maybe, then the demand for these costly goods, the demand for these luxurious goods will increase by more than 20%. That's for sure. So in this case, the value of income elasticity of demand, the value of income elasticity of demand for luxurious goods will be more than 1. All right, boys? Now this I am talking about the normal goods. As I said that the normal goods are of two type. One is your necessary good, the other one is your luxurious goods. But in case of necessary goods, we said that the value will be more than 0 and less than 1. In case of luxurious good, the value of income elasticity of demand, the value of income elasticity of demand will be more than 1. But boys and girls, we also know that other than normal goods, there are also goods which are called the inferior goods. And in case of inferior goods, what we know? In case of inferior good, if the income of the consumer increases, if the income of the consumer increases, then in that case, the demand for the commodity will decrease. The demand for the commodity will decrease. That is, as the income is increasing, the demand is decreasing. That is, they are moving in the opposite direction. So, in this case, the income elasticity of demand, in this case, the income elasticity of demand will be less than 1. All right. So in case of inferior good, the value, in this case, the value of income elasticity of demand will be less than 0, boys. That it is not less than 1, it is less than 0 because it is negative. So three things we got about the income elasticity of demand. For the inferior good, the value of income elasticity of demand will be less than 0. For normal good, the value will be definitely more than 0. But again, the normal goods are of two types. One is necessary, the other one is luxurious. In case of necessities, the value will be more than 0, but it will be less than 1. But in case of luxurious goods, the value of income elasticity of demand will be greater than 1. This is what we talk about the income elasticity of demand. Generally, they will give you the definition of income elasticity of demand, and the council will ask you what is the value of income elasticity of demand for the normal good, for the luxurious good, for the necessary good. Don't try to mark the values, because if you try to mark the values, definitely you will be confused. But if you try to understand the concept, then in that case, it will be easy for you to remember the value. Now the question can come, sir, why you are teaching income elasticity of demand, and why you are taking so much time about the income elasticity of demand? Yes, this question is natural. This question is natural to any boys of your age. Income elasticity of demand is important because we know that India is a developing country. And what is the sign of a developing country? One of the most important sign of a developing country is that the per capita income, of the country will increase. That is, the average income of the people will increase. Now, if the average income of the people increases, that is, the purchasing power of the people increases, then what will happen? People will try to consume more and more. But which type of commodity they will consume if their income increases? This is important. This is important for the producers to know. Because if the producers know the income elasticity of demand for the various goods, for the luxurious goods, for the necessity goods, all right, then the producers will produce according to the demand of the people. Because without following the income elasticity of demand, if the producers go on producing the goods, what will happen? Two things will happen. One is the way there will be wastage of resources, and we know that the resources are scarce. We have to utilize the resource in the best possible way. Second one, if the producers go on producing without taking into consideration the income elasticity of demand for the various commodities, then their goods may not be sold in the market. And if their goods are not sold in the market, what will happen in this case? What will happen in this case? There will be a chance of earning loss. There will be a chance of earning loss. That is why we have to study, we have to know the income elasticity of demand. Now, after income elasticity of demand, we will come to cross elasticity of demand. But boys and girls, again I am saying it to you, I am not a professional YouTubers. I am teaching economics in St. Paul's School for the last 15 years, and the economics in the total number of years is near about 20 years. So I thought that before I retire after another 13, 14 years, I must contribute. I must give it back to the students for whom I am here today, to one of the best boarding school of India. You can see the surroundings, how beautiful it is. So if you like my video, please subscribe it. Please share it with the other boys and girls so that they can also understand the economics in a easier way. Economics must be for each and every students. They must not pay. They must not be scared. Economics must be for each and every one. That is why I am here for you. So if you like it, please subscribe it. Please share it with your friends so that they can also reap the benefit of my way of teaching. So now coming to the cross elasticity of demand. What is cross elasticity of demand? Boys and girls, I said it to you that related commodities are of two types. Commodities are related in two ways. What are the two ways? One is substitute goods, the other one is complementary goods. Substitute goods. Substitute goods are those goods which one substitute for the other. For example, I have given you the example of tea and coffee. The other type of related good is complementary goods. That is the goods which are used together. The goods which are used together. Right? For example, petrol and petrol driven car. Okay, we can say that the ink and the fountain pen, shoes and socks, all these are complementary goods. Now, in case of cross elasticity of demand, we will measure the sensitivity of the commodity X due to change in price of the commodity Y. That is how the price of tea will affect the demand for coffee. How the price of petrol will affect the demand for the petrol driven car. That is my main objective. That is the main objective of mine. In case of substitute good, if the price of one commodity increases, then the demand for its substitute will increase. Listen carefully what I am saying. That if the price of a substitute good increases, then the demand for it substitute good will increase. Let me make it more easy. If the price of coffee increases, then the demand for tea will increase. Why it will be so? Because some of the consumer will shift from coffee to tea. But keep it in mind, all the consumer will not shift from coffee to tea because some of the consumer have some kind of affinity for coffee. So they will not be bothered. But most of the consumer will change from the consumption of coffee to the consumption of tea. Hence, the demand for tea will increase. So in this case, the cross elasticity of demand for the substitute good will be greater than zero. Will be greater than zero. In case of complementary good, the value of the cross elasticity of demand is less than zero. Why it is so? Why it is so? Because in case of complementary good, if the price of the petrol increases, what will happen to the demand for the petrol driven car? The demand for the petrol driven car will decrease. Because to drive the car, what you need? You need the petrol. So if the price of petrol increases, then to driving that car, petrol driven car, will be much more expensive. So the expenditure, so the demand for the petrol driven car will decrease. Now, in case of unrelated good, what will be the value in this case? In case of unrelated good, for example, you can say cricket bat and the economics book. What is the relation between the cricket bat and the economics book? Practically no relation. So if the price of cricket bat increases, what will be the demand? How the demand of economics book will change? Will there be any kind of change if the price of the cricket bat increases? Will there be any kind of change in demand for the economics book? The answer is no, because they are not related. So cross elasticity of demand in case of the unrelated good is equal to zero. Cross elasticity of demand. So what we have learned is that, what is cross elasticity of demand? Cross elasticity of demand, my boys and girls, is the percentage change in quantity demand of a commodity due to change in price of the related commodities. When I talked about the related commodities, I have discussed about two things, about the two types of commodities. One is substitute commodities, the other one is your complementary commodities. In case of substitute commodities, what will be the value of the cross elasticity of demand? The value of cross elasticity of demand, for the substitute good is greater than zero. That is, it is positive. The value of cross elasticity of demand in case of complementary goods, that is the goods which we are using jointly, in that case, the value of cross elasticity of demand is negative. We have also studied the value of cross elasticity of demand in case of the unrelated commodities. In case of unrelated commodities, the value of cross elasticity of demand is zero. Because if the price of one good increases, then in that case, the demand of the other good will not be affected because they are not related. So in this case, the value of cross elasticity of demand is equal to zero. So this is what you have to study in the cross elasticity of demand. Boys and girls, we have finished the income elasticity of demand, and we have also studied about the cross elasticity of demand. Now, in case of, if we go back now to the price elasticity of demand, boys and girls, price elasticity of demand has five types of magnitudes. What are those? Relatively elastic demand, relatively inelastic demand, unitary elastic demand, perfectly inelastic demand, and perfectly elastic demand. Coming to the very first magnitude, that is the relatively elastic demand. What is relatively elastic demand? Relatively elastic demand, it shows that the percentage change in quantity demand of a commodity, percentage change in quantity demand of a commodity is more than the percentage change in price of that commodity. That is, if the ratio of the change in quantity demand is more than the ratio of the change in price of that commodity, we will call it as relatively elastic demand. We will call it as relatively elastic demand. For example, if the price changes by 10% and the quantity demand changes by maybe 15% or maybe 20%, more than 10%, then in that case, we will call it as relatively elastic demand. Most of the luxurious goods are the examples of the relatively elastic demand. Next. So in this case, in case of relatively elastic demand, boys, we have to remember that the value of the relatively elastic demand is greater than what? Greater than 1. Because the numerator is greater than denominator. And we know that if the numerator is greater than denominator, then definitely the value will be greater than 1. So the relatively elastic demand has a value greater than 1. And in this case, if you have to draw the demand curve of a relatively elastic demand, make the demand curve as much flat as possible. Don't make it a straight line, then it will not be, because then it will be a different one. But make the demand curve as much flat as possible. Because if you make the demand curve more flat, much more flatter, what will happen in that case? Then you can show that the demand is changing more, that the rate of change of demand is more than the rate of change in price. That should be the way of drawing the relatively elastic demand curve. The second magnitude of measuring the price elasticity of demand. The second magnitude of measuring the price elasticity of demand is relatively inelastic demand. Relatively inelastic demand. What is relatively inelastic demand? In case of relatively inelastic demand, the percentage change in quantity demanded, the percentage change in quantity demanded is less than the percentage change in price. That is, the ratio of the change in quantity demand is less than the ratio of the change in price. For example, if the price increases by 20%, if the price increases by 20% and the quantity demand decreases by less than 20%, let it be 15%, let it be 10%, whatever it is, if the price increases by 20% and the quantity demand decreases by less than 20%, then it is termed as relatively inelastic demand. It is known as relatively inelastic demand. What will be the value in this case? The value of relatively inelastic demand is less than 1. The value of relatively inelastic demand is less than 1, because in here also the numerator is less than that of the denominator. The value of the numerator is less than that of the denominator. So the value of price elasticity of demand in case of relatively inelastic demand is less than 1. Example, most of the necessity goods like rice, as I said to you, maybe sugar, all right, most of the necessity goods have relatively inelastic demand. Boys and girls, there are 3 other types of elasticity of demand which we'll do in our next lesson. As you can see from the background, initially it was drizzling, okay, then it was bright, now it is full cloudy over here. Okay, I am sitting, you can say, in the middle of the cloud, and any time there can be good amount of rainfalls over here. So before the rain comes and drains me, I'll be finishing my lesson over here. I will try to have more and more outdoor lessons if possible. And if you enjoy the economics along with this weather, along with this scenic beauty, then definitely subscribe my channel. Definitely share with more number of pupils, more friends, so that economics can reach to each and everyone. Thank you very much for watching the channel Thinkonomics Study with Nobrin. Thinkonomics Study with Nobrin. Namaskar and Jai Hind.